ladies and gentlemen. As you just heard, my name is Cord Reddick, and a little bit about me. I am like a little bit, just like a little tinge, just like the smallest bit, absolute dog shit at dating, like the worst. And I know what you guys are thinking. All right? What? No. This sharply dressed, confident sounding, funny once in a while kid, he can't be bad at dating. He looks like he showers and shaves once in a while. That's better than like 90% of college dudes. How is he bad? And first of all, aw. Thank you. Secondly, I also don't know why I'm so bad at it. I don't know. Bearded fellow, invest. What's your name? James, all right. James, how do most people learn how to date?
By their mothers and fathers.
By their parents, exactly. James is a smart one, everyone, just so everyone knows. Through their parents, all right? If parenting were the only reason that people got good at dating, I would have already been married for about 10 years now. Not because my parents were like actually married as children or anything like that. Like, yeah, I do. Like, not that. But like, my parents are in love, like the gross kind. Like the kind that you see in your friends and you're simultaneously jealous of and upset at because they keep kissing in your house like they own the place. I mean, in my case, they did. Doesn't make it any less upsetting, all right? And my mom, she's a wonderful lady, all right? She's a radiologic technologist. She's super busy and super organized. She's the smartest woman I know, all right? And my dad, well, let's just say that one time at a restaurant, my dad got confused and said that he had the same name as our server when the server introduced himself as Carlos. My dad's name is Scott. I am not going to explain that any further because I do not want to. Anyways, my parents, like, as I said, way in love. Like, every day, my dad reminds my mom of how he does not know how he caught such a good woman and how he is so lucky to spend his days with the woman he loves and, sappy bullshit like that. And my mom snaps back with the same sentiment. She's like, I don't know how you did that either. But like somewhere between those two and me, there's a real big disconnect, all right? Because as I said, I am dog shit at dating. And I know what you guys are thinking. I'm good at this, all right? I know what you guys are thinking. You're like, well, if you're so bad at dating, maybe you're just a bad person. And first of all, hey, what the heck? Second of all, it's not me. I know it may sound like it's me, but it's not me, all right? Because when I go on dates, shit just happens. For example, one time I was on a first date with a girl, and we were talking about faith, not like Faith Hicks, like God faith, because at this time I was really big into the big man upstairs. And we were talking about faith, and she told me that she does not want to kiss anyone before she is married to them, because that's God's unsaid way. And that if you do kiss someone before you marry them, that's a sin, and you go directly to hell. I don't know about you guys, but I've read the Bible. You don't see shit about that in there. This girl thinks that kissing before marriage, premarital smooching, if you will, premarital smooching is a cardinal sin that sends you directly to the bad place. Like smooching before marriage is the Disney Fast Pass of sins. And you want to know what the kicker is, James? You want to know what the kicker is?
Yeah.
She's married now. She and her now husband were dating for 1.5 months before she popped the question. I'm going to let that ruminate a little bit, all right? 1.5 months. 6 weeks. Half the length of an average Amazon Prime free trial. These two were dating for 50 days and they were like, you know what? We're done. This is my forever person. There are fleas that live longer than these people were dating, and now they are betrothed forever. All I'm saying is I dodged a bullet. I did not catch a bullet. I dodged a bullet on that one. But the stories only get worse from there, all right? I was on a third date with a girl. We were at Denny's because it's the perfect place to go on a date, all right? It's got all the romantic qualities, all right? It's got the nice lighting. It's got the happy and helpful staff. Eggs, everything you need. And we were talking, like normal people do, about normal people things. Like how my favorite punctuation mark is an apostrophe, because it's a magical sky comma that makes it so that letters don't have to exist anymore. You know, normal people things. And then we got on the topic of my favorite book, which at the time was Artemis Fowl, because I was a child who really, really thought he was much smarter than he actually was. And that is the only demographic that that book applies to. If you like that book, congratulations on your presumed intelligence. And she stops me. She's like, actually, sorry, I don't think things can go further from here because I don't really date people who do that. And I'm like, huh? Okay, we don't have to like the same books or anything like that. That's all right by me. I like introducing people to books that they have not read. It's just part of my person. And she stops me again. She's like, shh. I meant people who read. And then she up and leaves the Denny's. First of all, we had already ordered. She had read the menu. It's not like she opened it, turned to a picture of a burger, pointed at it, and was like, that one. She didn't do that. I was like, what the hell does that mean? But then again, right now me, is grateful that we cut it off when she cut it off. She left, she cut it off. That she cut it off when she did. Because, hypothetically, let's say things go further in our relationship, all right? And I'm like, you know, driving her down the highway, and I absentmindedly say to myself, speed limit here is 55. And she, from the passenger side, is like, did you just read that? And next thing I know, I'm in the car by myself because she has done a perfect textbook tuck and roll out the the passenger side window, because she does that anytime anyone says that anything about words to her, right? Or let's say things get a little bit further in our relationship, all right? And we're on vacation together. We're at a beach, and I'm like, hey babe, traffic is getting kind of bad. Maps is saying so. We should probably leave because I don't want to get stuck in a traffic jam again, all right? And she looks up at me and she's like, did you just read that? And next thing I know, she's sprinting headfirst into the ocean because there's nothing worse than a man who knows when traffic jams happen. Or, let's just hypothetically say things get a little bit further in our relationship and I'm marrying this woman. And the official's like, Cord, it's time for you to read your vows, because I have Morgan Freeman officiating my wedding. And I'm like, cool, and I pull them out of my vest pocket because I'm not a nerd who memorizes their vows. And she from the other side is like, you gonna read those? And I reply, yes, because as already stated, I am not a nerd. And she's like, oh, well, I think we should take this back to the objections part because I think I might have a couple. But the stories only get worse from there, all right? The last story that I'll tell you guys, I'll spare you some of the other ones. The last story I'll tell you guys today is not one that I like to tell, all right? It's not fun. But it's too good for me not to say, all right? This story happened in sophomore year of high school, and I was dating this girl that I really, really liked. We'll call her Sophie, whatever. We'll call her Sophie. And I was dating Sophie, and I really, really liked Sophie, all right? She was tall, she was beautiful, she was funny, she had a smile that could light up a room, which was crazy, because Cord in sophomore year was a goblin. Like, all the way down to the right angle elbows and eating nickels. But like, I really, really liked this girl. And we were dating for a little bit, 3 months, not too long, but dating for a little bit, and I was like, I want to show her how much she means to me. So I called her up on the phone, and I was like, hey, Sophie, tomorrow, 6:30 p.m., I'm gonna pick you up and we're gonna go on a date. Look nice. First of all, cringe. I asked no questions in that statement, all right? It was statement, 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 command. Don't do that. Secondly, she was like, yeah, sure, because she knows, she's smart. She knows she's not gonna have to pay for anything, all right? That's what pushover dumbass is for. So I was like, cool. And I hung up the phone, and I got my stuff ready for the next about 18 hours, because I did nothing as a sophomore. And I took her out on the date the next day, all right? We went out, we went to a movie, we went to Southpaw. It's a boxing movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. It's an excellent movie, and even with what happens after we see this movie in this story, I would still wildly recommend it. All right, we were doing, the couple thing. We were sharing popcorn, we were sharing a drink. I tried the yawn into arm over thing 3 separate times in the movie, sneezed in the middle of all of them. Like, just imagine And keep in mind, I sneezed like a shotgun, so like extra not allowed in the movie theaters. But after the movie, we left the movie and we went out to eat. I took her to the second fanciest restaurant in Minot. It's called the Starving Rooster. And before you guys are like, whoa, fancy, the fanciest restaurant in Minot is Olive Garden. Not that impressive. So we went to the Starving Rooster, all right? And we sat down, and for the first about 5 minutes of us being there, it was me trying to initiate conversation with Sophie, and Sophie not giving a singular rat's ass about anything that I'm saying, and just looking at her phone. And this is where we introduce a recurring character in this story, and his name is Red Flag. This Red Flag pops up and he's like, hey, something's wrong. And I'm like, hey, she's hot, shut up. And I shoot it away, I paid it no mind, all right? And the waitress came up, and she took our drinks, all right? And then when she left, Sophie looked up from her phone, looked me dead in the eyes, and was like, I need to go to the bathroom. And to that I was like, yeah. Because you can't tell a girl no when she says she has to go to the bathroom. That's how you get on a watch list. So she went to the bathroom, and I sat there, and I waited, 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 and I waited some more. And as I was waiting, a couple more of these red flags popped up. They were like, hey, something's wrong! And I'm like, hey, when you go to the bathroom, you take this long, give her a break. So I paid them no mind. And some of you in the audience right now are thinking that you're ahead of me, all right? You're thinking you're putting 2 and 2 together and you're like, I know where the story goes. You don't? Trust me. Because after about 45 minutes of me sitting there and waiting, I'll repeat that, 4 or 5 minutes of me sitting there and waiting, she walks back out of the bathroom. And a little bit of context, all right? Sophie normally wears her hair in a messy bun on the back of her head, all right? She wears glasses. And when she walks very tall, prim and proper with her hands very close to her body, all right? When Sophie walked out of that bathroom, her hair was down. Her glasses were nowhere to be seen. And when I say she was walking freely and loosely, it was like she was a drunken uncle at a wedding reception who just heard the first 3 notes of the chicken dance and is making his way to that dance floor. All these red flags popped up. And they were like, hey, something's wrong! But my brain, fun fact, hates me. And immediately goes to work rationalizing each and every single one of those red flags. It's just like, hey, she's still hot, shut up. And someone went away. It's like, hey, she's just a genius who made room for the food that she's about to eat. Someone can go away. Hey, when you shit, you can't walk after, so like, give her a break. And each red flag was just kind of ignored. And she comes back and she sits down and I'm like, are you okay? Because I'm an asshole. And And she's like, yeah, and she looks down at the soup that I ordered her while I was waiting, because I'm not only an asshole, but I'm an impatient asshole. The perfect man. And she's like, is this for me? And I'm like, yeah. And she eats it and she's like, this is good. And I'm like, great. And I immediately forget all the bad things that just happened to me for the past day, all right? Because I am terrible at picking up signs and signals, all right? I would have trouble pouring water out of a boot if the instructions were on the heel. So everything was cool for the next about 3 days. Until I got a phone call from my friend Colton, all right? Colton called me up. He's like, hey, did you take Sophie out on a date on Saturday? And I was like, yeah, why? And he's like, did you take her to the Starving Rooster? And I'm like, did you follow us to the Starving Rooster? And he's like, did Sophie go in the bathroom for an ungodly amount of time? And I'm like, are you Sophie? And he told me not to get mad at him, but he was talking to Reed, who is one of Sophie's friends. And long story short, I promise you this is long story short. Reed was bragging to Colton about how Reed on Saturday went to the Starving Rooster and Reed had sex in the bathroom of the Starving Rooster with Sophie while Sophie was at the Starving Rooster on a date with some guy. Colton, I'm some guy, aren't I? I was indeed some guy. So I broke things off with Sophie. I mean, I really need to stop using her real name in this bit. Anyways. I broke things off with Sophie, all right? Because I have self-respect. I also have this weird thing where I don't like being cheated on. Weird, I know. And honestly, it sucked. It was not fun. It was not a fun time. But I took some positives from it, all right? I learned some things. I learned that $195 is too much for a date, all right? It's too much for anything. It's way too much for a date. I learned that the ultimate test for whether or not you like the movie is whether you can get cheated on right after you view it and still enjoy it. Southpaw passed. I learned that if you really, really, really need to have sex in the bathroom of a restaurant, Starving Rooster in Monmouth is a pretty good option. And honestly, James, things could have been worse. All right? Yeah, they could have been worse. I could have thought my name was Carlos sometime in there. That would have been worse than anything that happened. Thank you guys, I've been Cord Redding. Up next, we have our Madam Vice President herself, Hannah Lambert.